The throne room of the ethereal citadel was exactly as I remembered it. Soaring columns of translucent stone that seemed to pulse with inner light, floors polished to mirror smoothness, and at the far end, the silver throne where she sat, Queen Taelindra of the Lumini Empire. 20 years had passed since I'd last stood in this chamber. 20 years since I'd been a young soldier in the human expeditionary forces, assigned to protect her during the coalition wars. 20 years since the day that had changed everything. I was different now. Older, weathered by 2 decades of military service across a dozen systems. Scars I hadn't carried then marked my body, gray threaded through my dark hair. Lines creased my face, but she looked exactly the same. Ageless, ethereal, with skin that shimmered like captured starlight and eyes the color of deep amethyst. The Lumini aged differently than humans, a century passing for them like a decade for us. "State your business," her chancellor announced, not even looking at me directly. Just another human petitioner among dozens seeking audience with the Queen. "My name is Finn Ashford," I said, my voice steady despite the pounding of my heart. "I've come to claim a debt owed by the crown." That got their attention. Several courtiers gasped. The chancellor's eyes widened in outrage. "How dare you suggest the Queen owes anything to a—" "Let him speak." Taelindra's voice cut through the chamber like crystal chimes. She leaned forward slightly, studying me with those remarkable eyes. But there was no recognition in them, no spark of memory. Why would there be? To her, I was just another human, forgettable, replaceable. 20 years ago, I began, I was assigned to Queen Taelindra's protection detail during the siege of Velmora Station. When the Krell infiltrators breached the safe room, I was the only guard who remained. I held the door against 7 attackers while the Queen escaped through the emergency passage. "Many soldiers served during those wars," the Chancellor said dismissively. "You expect reward for simply doing your duty." "I expect acknowledgement of a promise made," I replied. "Before she fled, Queen Taelindra told me that if I survived, she would grant me any boon within her power. I survived. I'm here to collect." Taelindra's expression remained neutral, but I saw the faintest flicker of something in her eyes. Uncertainty. "I made many promises during the war, to many soldiers. I cannot be expected to remember every. Then perhaps this will help." I pulled aside my collar, revealing the scar that ran from my right shoulder across my chest, a jagged, raised line of tissue that had never fully healed despite advanced medical treatment. The lead infiltrator had a plasma blade, caught me across the chest when I refused to let them pass. I killed him anyway, but the wound— I let the collar fall back into place. Lumini plasma weapons leave distinctive scars. Energy signatures that mark the flesh permanently. This one has your royal house's unique frequency embedded in it. It can be verified. The chamber fell silent. Taelindra stood, descending from her throne with impossible grace. She crossed the distance between us, and suddenly we were face to face for the first time in 20 years. "Show me," she commanded softly. I opened my uniform jacket, then the shirt beneath, exposing the full extent of the scar. It was ugly, a reminder of how close I'd come to dying that day, but it was also proof, undeniable, verifiable proof. Taelindra raised one elegant hand, her fingers hovering just above the scar tissue. I felt the tingle of her energy as she examined it, reading the quantum signature embedded in my flesh. Her eyes widened, her hand trembled. "Finn," she whispered. "Finn Ashford, you actually survived." "Barely," I admitted. "Spent 6 months in medical recovery." They said I should have died from the wound. Apparently, I'm too stubborn for that. Tailindra's composure cracked. Tears I'd never seen a Lumini cry before began to fall from her eyes, glowing softly as they traced down her cheeks. I thought you were dead. I sent recovery teams back, but the station was destroyed. No bodies were found, I assumed. That I'd been vaporized with the rest of the station, I finished. Almost was, made it to an escape pod with about 30 seconds to spare. Ended up drifting for 3 days before a patrol picked me up. Why didn't you come forward? Why didn't you contact me? I gestured at the opulent throne room, the courtiers in their fine robes, the guards in ceremonial armor worth more than I'd make in a lifetime. Look at where you are. Look at what you are. Then look at me. I'm a human soldier, your majesty. Even if I'd tried to contact you, do you think anyone would have believed I had a personal connection to the queen of the Lumini Empire? Tailindra looked stricken. You should have tried. I did 3 times. Each time I was turned away before ever reaching anyone who mattered. Eventually, I gave up and went back to soldiering, figured the promise died with the war. Then why come now? I met her eyes directly. Because I'm dying. The words hung in the air like a death knell. Tailindra's hand flew to her mouth. Radiation exposure from a mission 2 years ago. Doctors give me maybe 6 months, and before I go, I wanted. I paused, searching for the right words. I wanted to see you again, to know that the sacrifice meant something, that you lived, thrived, became the queen you were meant to be. What boon do you seek? Tailindra asked, her voice thick with emotion. Name it, anything. Permission to spend my remaining time here in the Citadel. I don't need luxury or ceremony, just a quiet room where I can watch the sunset over the crystal gardens like we used to during the war. Remember when there's still something worth remembering. Several courtiers started to protest. The impropriety, the security risk, the scandal of a dying human living in the royal palace. Tailindra silenced them with a single raised hand. No, she said firmly, that's not enough. You saved my life at the cost of your own health. You kept a promise when death would have been easier. You found your way back to me after 20 years. She turned to her chancellor. Summon the royal physicians, all of them. I want every medical expert in the Empire examining Finn's condition. Your Majesty, radiation poisoning in humans is notoriously difficult to. Did I ask for your medical opinion? Tailindra's voice carried an edge I remembered from the war, the voice of a queen who would not be contradicted. Finn Ashford saved my life. Now I will save his. That is not a request. Over the following weeks, I became an unlikely resident of the ethereal citadel. True to her word, Tailindra assigned me comfortable quarters overlooking the crystal gardens. But more than that, she visited me daily. At first, the visits were brief, checking on my comfort, ensuring the physicians were doing their work, but gradually they lengthened. We began to talk, really talk, for the first time since the war. Do you remember the night before the siege? Tailindra asked one evening as we watched the sunset paint the gardens in shades of amber and rose. You were terrified, I recalled. Trying not to show it, but I could tell. Your hands kept trembling when you thought no one was looking. I'd never been in real danger before, always protected, always sheltered. Then suddenly, assassins and infiltrators and the very real possibility of death. She smiled sadly. You told me something that night. Do you remember what? I thought back, the memory hazy with time. I said that fear was natural, that the bravest people I knew were terrified but did their duty anyway. You also said that you'd stand between me and anything that tried to hurt me, that I could trust you with my life. Tailindra's amethyst eyes glistened. You kept that promise even when it cost you everything. Not everything, I'm still here. For now, her voice broke. The physicians say the radiation damage is extensive. Even with our advanced medicine, they can only slow the progression, not stop it. I'd expected as much. Then I'll enjoy whatever time I have. Thanks to you, I'm spending it somewhere beautiful with someone whose company I actually enjoy. That's more than most soldiers get. Tailindra was quiet for a long moment. Then there might be another option, but it's dangerous, experimental, and it would change you fundamentally. I'm listening. The Lumini have a ritual, an ancient one rarely performed. We can share our life essence with another being, transfer some of our longevity, our healing capabilities. It's how we save dying children, how we preserve our elders when age finally catches up to them. But I'm human, which is why it's never been attempted across species. The process might kill you outright, or it might work partially, leaving you trapped between human and Lumini, belonging fully to neither. What are the odds of success? The physicians estimate 30%. I laughed, the sound bitter. So 70% chance of dying now instead of in 6 months. Doesn't sound like much of a trade. Unless you consider what happens if it works, Tailindra said intently. You could live, not just survive, but truly live, decades more, maybe centuries, free from the radiation poisoning, free from pain. Why would you risk this? I'm nobody, Tailindra, a soldier who did his job 20 years ago. You don't owe me? Don't. Her voice was sharp. Don't diminish what you did. You stood alone against 7 trained killers. You took a wound that should have killed you. You gave me time to escape, to survive, to become who I am today. She took my scarred hand in both of hers. Every decision I've made as queen, every life I've saved, every policy I've enacted, all of it exists because you didn't let them through that door. How could I not try to save you? I looked down at our joined hands, her luminescent skin against my scarred, weathered flesh. So different, so impossible. If it works, I said slowly, what happens to me? Do I become Lumini? Partially. You'd retain your essential humanity, but gain some of our characteristics. Extended life, enhanced healing, perhaps some of our sensitivity to energy fields. The exact outcome is unpredictable. And if I refuse, then I'll honor your choice, give you the best 6 months possible, and be grateful for the time we have. I thought about it, really thought about it. 6 months of slow decline or a chance, however slim, at real life. At more sunsets, more conversations. More time with the woman I'd saved so long ago, who'd somehow become important to me all over again. When can we do the ritual? I asked. Relief flooded Tailindra's face. Tomorrow, if you're certain. The ceremonial chamber must be prepared, the physicians standing by. But Finn, you need to understand, this is permanent. If it works, you'll be bound to me in ways that go beyond gratitude or friendship. The life essence doesn't transfer without creating a connection between giver and receiver. What kind of connection? We'll be able to sense each other, feel strong emotions across distance, in some cases even share thoughts if we're in close proximity. She searched my face. It's intimate, Finn, far more than most people ever share. I should have been frightened, should have hesitated, but instead I felt a strange sense of rightness. I saved your life once, I said. Seems fitting that you'd save mine in a way that binds us together, makes the circle complete. The ritual took place in a chamber deep beneath the citadel, carved from living crystal that hummed with ancient power. Tailindra wore robes of pure white that seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously. I wore simple clothing, as instructed, nothing to interfere with the energy transfer. Are you ready? She asked. standing before me in the center of an intricate pattern etched into the floor. I pulled aside my collar one final time, revealing the scar that had brought me back to her. This mark has been proof of what happened 20 years ago. Let it be proof of what happens today, too. Tailindra placed her hand directly over the scar, her palm warm against my chest. I felt energy begin to flow, gentle at first, then building in intensity. The pain was excruciating. Every nerve in my body felt like it was being rewritten, cells reorganizing themselves at the molecular level. I wanted to scream, to pull away, but Tailindra's other hand gripped mine with surprising strength. "Stay with me," she whispered, and I felt her words not just in my ears but resonating through the connection forming between us. "I've got you. I won't let you go." I held on through the pain, through the fear, through the moment where I felt myself dying and being reborn simultaneously. And then suddenly it was over. I collapsed, gasping. Tailindra caught me, lowering us both to the floor. Around us, the physicians rushed forward, scanners humming. "Vitals stabilizing," one announced. "The radiation signature it's fading. Cellular regeneration is accelerating. By the ancients, it actually worked." I looked up at Tailindra, seeing her with new clarity, not just with my eyes, but with something deeper, the connection she'd warned me about. I could feel her relief, her joy, her profound gratitude that I'd survived. "The scar," I managed to say, my voice rough. Tailindra's hand went to my chest. The old scar remained permanent, embedded with Lumini energy. But around it, my skin had begun to change, taking on a faint luminescence. "Proof," she said softly, understanding, "of what you sacrificed then, of what we've both sacrificed now, of the bond that can't be broken." My scar had been the proof that finally made the alien queen recognize me. Now it was proof of something even greater, a connection that transcended species, time, and death itself. I was alive, truly alive, and I would remain so, bound to the queen who'd honored a 20-year-old promise with everything she had.